What is this? Ayin Aleph Amud Beis. Ayin Aleph Amud Beis. Ivoidu Gerushin Keshtika Damya Oka Kama Damya. So we know that the husband could be made for a neder, and it has a day to be in order to nullify the neder. And if the day passes, then he can't anymore. And there's such a thing called a kama also, that he could positively affirm it. And if he affirms it, then it's already affirmed even before the day is over. Right. And he can't be made for it anymore. There is such a thing we saw before. You could be shoyal, you could retract it. That's something else. You could retract the kama as if you never did it. But as long as you didn't retract it, so the affirmation makes it firm and cannot be made for. So the question is, Gerushin, Keshtika Damya, Oka Kama Damya. If someone divorces his wife, he heard about the neder, she made a neder, he heard about the neder, and he divorced her. But the day is not over yet. On the same day that he heard about it, he divorced her, and the day is not over. So is it just as if he was quiet, and he still has the rest of the day to be maker? Or is it like a kama? Is it as if he affirmed it, and then it's too late, he can't be maker anymore? So it's pasha to the Gemara that, of course, he cannot be made for it after you divorced her. He's not her husband anymore. The mind have to mean now. So what is enough between these two questions? If it's considered a passive silence or it's considered an active affirmation. That he took her back the same day. That it's still the same day. The day is not over yet. That she made a neder. He heard about it. He divorced her, and he married her back. And the day's not over yet, and now he wants to be made for it. He wasn't made with the first time when he was married to her. He wasn't made for it, but he wasn't making it either. He didn't make it either. He didn't affirm it. He just divorced her, and then he took her back right away. A couple of hours later, he calmed down. He took her back. Is it still within the day? Can he now be made for it? Do you say that the divorce itself was considered a kama, even though he didn't say I'm affirming it? The fact that he divorced her is like he affirmed it. Be like that. So that maybe the reason is because the only reason why you have that day, why is the silence not considered an immediate affirmation? Because you still have time. I have time. The fact that he's heard that they didn't say anything, you don't think that's considered an affirmation, because I'll think about it. I want to think about it. But once he divorces her, he can't think about it anymore, because once he's divorced her, he can't nullify it after he divorces her. Only if he takes her back again. He's not planning on taking her back. At the time when he divorces her, he's not planning on taking her back. So the fact that he divorced her was considered already a declaration that I wanted, and it's considered a positive affirmation. And if he does take her back by any chance, it's still too late. He can't nullify it anymore because he already affirmed it. The question is good. What is it?
Well, you were saying that if there's this, I'm on the side that it's affirmed.
Why is it affirmed? Why do you think it's affirmed?
I think he divorced her because of it.
Yeah, surely he did. But does that surely
that means he didn't like it?
Okay, and now he finds out.
And he didn't like it, but instead of erasing it, he left. So that's like that. So it stands.
But now the question is, he married her back, and now he wants to be now still within the day. Can he nullify it? I'm not sure why. Surely maybe he divorced her for that reason, for a different reason. Okay, but does that show that he affirmed it? That's a positive affirmation that he's affirming the neder. How do you see that? The svara that was presented is because since he knows that now that he's going to divorce her, he's not going to be able to nullify it anymore. So
once he divorces, he knows that he can't do anything about it.
Right. So why is he going in that track? Usually, it's not considered an affirmation just being quiet after 5 minutes, because why didn't you might ask? That's considered an affirmation. He was quiet for 5 minutes. Doesn't that he didn't nullify it? So that's affirmation. He says he wants to think about it still. I have another 5 minutes, have the rest of the day to think about it. I'll decide by the end of the day. But if he's divorcing her now, so he brought the end of the day earlier. As Chabusa gave an example. What if he would go to sleep? He's saying, I heard the neder, he thought about it for 5 minutes, and he says, I'm going to sleep till tomorrow morning. I'm going to sleep. He has time till the end of the day. So you could say that that's considered an affirmation because he's not giving himself any more chance to think about it already. That's just,
how can you say it's not enough?
So that's it. The one is two studies. The one is two studies. Maybe that side will be that it's a din. It doesn't take effect until the end of the day. Not dafka because it's not enough just to passively.
You have to wait till the end of the day if he didn't do anything.
If he didn't actively nullify it or affirm it, so you wait. It has to be a passive affirmation that takes effect by the end of the day.
And
even though
he's not there,
even though he showed already that he's not planning on changing his mind, but that's not enough. That's not enough till the end of the day comes.
You have to wait till the end of the day.
So that's two studies. Ma kishtika dami. If you say that the divorce is no more than her being silent, but he divorced and he married her back again. What's he made for her? He still could make her when he takes her back again.
I'm sorry, shtika means that it didn't affirm it? What type of
Shtika,
thing?
yes, shtika means he did not affirm it. He just was quiet. That's the way we started off. Let's start again. There's a thing called kishtika or kakama. When a husband hears in that, he has the three choices. He has three choices. He can nullify it, he can affirm it, and he can be quiet. If he's quiet till the end of the day, that's also a passive affirmation. It takes effect that that's a regular case. He stays married, waits till the end of the day.
And it's not the end of the day yet. So then,
right, so it's passive. And then if the Gemara says on that side, he'd be able to remarry her and still be mefer, because the day's not over yet. But if you say that that's an akama, so you already affirmed it. Lo matzi mefer because you already affirmed it. He can't nullify it after you affirmed it.
okay.
So I heard that yesterday afternoon and asked the kasha, that is what happened to mefer b'kodman. That if he married her a second time, how could he be made for still the net of the first marriage was this morning? It's already kodem. It's a kodem of the marriage that he married her now.
Right.
So that's a good kasha, and the Gemara is going to deal with it. The Gemara is going to take care of it. But
Mayfair.
The first marriage, what?
he was married. In the morning, he was married. He might have been married. Okay, whatever. He's married. He's an Oros. We'll say he's okay. That's why you're going to give away the answer already. But he was married to her, and he heard a neder. He divorced her, and he took her back the same day. And the question is if he can still be made for, since it's within the 24 hours, since he heard the net, since it's still within the same day.
Now he's a new husband.
No, same husband.
Yeah, but he divorced her.
And he married her?
He's now considered achron.
So what's your question? I'm not sure. We're talking about the same husband,
He's not the same person physically, but he's a Baal Sheni. He divorced her and he remarried her.
So as far as what? So what do you want to say?
I'm trying to figure out if that changes the halacha in any way.
So we're talking about the issue about called Kodman. They must talk
You can't
about
judge him as the first husband. You have to judge him as a second.
Because make it different. Even if she married another person, it would be the same thing.
Oh, that's the question.
That's what I said in number now. That even if the husband also he's not even made.
Okay.
So the most question is if it's considered a common. The fact that he divorced her is it considered that he was Makayim it already, and therefore there's no more nullifying. Once you affirmed it, you can't nullify it. Or it's not considered an affirmation, it's just considered silent. And then later on, if he's silent, so he wasn't silent to the end of the day because he married her again, and then he was made for it. That's the question. If the divorce is considered just silence, or is it considered an affirmation of the neder?
Why don't you say that the divorce cuts him off from all options to make for an neder?
Why should it?
Why? Because he's no longer has the power. They assume he didn't marry second time that day.
He did marry the
No, we
second
didn't
day.
know that. It was when he divorced, he cut off all ties with her.
And then he remarried.
Yes, but it means that even the responsibility as a first husband to the original neder, he has no power after that marriage.
Why not?
He's got nothing to do with her.
I'm not saying
Until
he
he
married.
marries her.
So he married. He
Yes,
remarried.
but there's a break in between.
So who says that the break doesn't get?
Thinking it should cut him off from all of it was when he divorces her, he's saying, I have no power over your anything.
And then he married her again.
That's a different question.
That's the question we're asking.
Now it's Baal Achron. Now he's called the Baal Achron.
The Baal Achron also could be. That was yesterday's law. That was yesterday's law. That the second husband also is allowed to be made for the Nedarim. And the way the Gemara does ask the question is it considered affirmation? The reason why the Gemara sees that once he divorced her and he split all ties,
That's what I'm saying. It's not an affirmation. I'm trying to say it's not an affirmation.
You're trying to say that it is. You're trying to say that since he's divorced her, so that's now he's saying that I'm stopping all my possibilities to nullify. That means that this is the end of the day now. And as far as me, it's the end of the day. What's the difference if the sun goes down or the marriage goes down? And I'm not anymore going to nullify it. And he affirmed it. Without saying any words, he affirmed it. That's the Gemara's side. And there was another side that nothing happens till the end of the day. It's considered silence. He was physically silent at the end of the day. He didn't say that he affirms it. So maybe it's still silent and he's allowed to nullify it. Tashma.
What was that from Nissan's question?
Okay, we could do it now. We could do it later. Might as well do it later. Right?
Okay.
Might as well do it at the end of the page. It's going to come up. Tashma. So the Gemara brings a proof from a brayso that we had before. Once upon a time, we had this brayso. I think it's Samaches, and on the side Samaches. Over there, I spoke about that when the husband dies, we said in the Srokna that it gets transferred. All the rights of the husband gets transferred to the father. The father now is the sole authority, and he could be made. That's called the Srokna. That if the husband dies, the father gets the authority to be made for by himself. The Brisa said, we had this Brisa before, that as long as he was not Mekayim, as long as he didn't affirm
Right.
it. But if the husband had affirmed it before he died, so then the father cannot nullify it anymore. That's the Brisa we're going to bring now again. The same Brisa we had on Samaches, the Gemara is bringing down again. And here the Gemara is going to be Medaik, that it gives examples of not affirming it, and it gives examples of affirming it. We had the case, five examples. I just have the charge for myself over there. There were 5 cases that I spoke about. 3 cases where the father does get the authority because the husband did not affirm it. But in the 2 cases where the husband affirmed it, either by actively affirming it or by being quiet for the rest of the day, those are the cases that are considered affirmation. And then you can then the father is not, even though the husband died, the father cannot name for it anymore because the husband affirmed it in his lifetime. And the Gemara is going to be medayik from this brisa. What will be the bit if he would have divorced her? Where does the brisa put that into the 2 charts? It has a chart about not affirming it and yes affirming it. Where is the case of divorcing? That's what we want to know. Is a divorce considered an affirmation or not? Tashma, we had the brisa before. When do we say that when the husband dies, now the authority is transferred to the father? Number 1. Oh, Shama Ve'efer. Number 2. Oh, Shama V'shasak Umeis Bo B'yom. Number 3. 3 cases where the husband did not affirm it. The 3 cases are that he didn't hear about it. He didn't hear about it at all. Or he heard about it and he nullified it. Or he heard about it and was quiet and died the same day. The day was not over yet. So those 3 cases, he didn't affirm it. So therefore, when he dies, the father gets the authority that the husband had, and he's the sole authority now. How come it doesn't say a case of divorcing? That's what the Gemara is going to be medayik. It doesn't say a case of divorcing. Why not? Why doesn't it say in the case where he divorced her also, now the father is the sole authority? If you say that, and it's hard to say that divorce is just considered a passive silence, but it's not considered an affirmation. It could have another case where the father is a strokna, that the authority is going to be transferred to the father. If the husband heard about it and divorced her, he didn't say anything. He just divorced her. Now it goes to the father. Why does it? And it's not considered a kiyum. The Gemara says if you say that, must be that it's considered a kiyum. The fact that he divorced her, that's considered an affirmation. And now the father does not get the authority. It must be, since the Brisa doesn't give that as an example of a silence, it must be that it's considered an affirmation. And that's why the Brisa doesn't say it, because now the father is not going to get the authority. But the Gemara says that's not a good deal, because like always, the same pattern has many times in the Gemara. Here the Gemara is a little bit elaborate about it. That the end of the Brisa, when it does say the cases of affirmation, it doesn't say that case either. That says 2 cases of affirmation. It says either he affirmed it mamish, shama v'kiyim, or it's going to say that he died the next day. He was quiet till the next day. It doesn't say the case of divorcing her. It could have said that case in affirmation also. And if you're saying that the Brisa holds that it is considered a affirmation, why doesn't it say it in the Sefer? It says in the Sefer these words: "Avalim shama v'kiyim, or shama v'shasa kumeis b'yom shalach." That's the case. The Brisa found 2 cases of an affirmation. One is that he positively, actively affirmed it, or he was quiet and he died the next day, means the whole day passed by without him nullifying it. It's considered an affirmation. If you say that a gerushin is considered an affirmation, I should have said the case in the Sefer. Yam gerushin kalkamadami listening. Why doesn't it say this case also in the Sefer? You had to think it doesn't say it in the Reisha. It doesn't say in the Sefer. Element lo katana yachish mamino gerushin kishtikadam. On the contrary, bring about from this brisa, the end of the brisa, that is just considered a silence. That's not considered an affirmation. Ella meholek mamine. Like the Gemara always says, if you have a contradicting diuk from the Reisha and the Sefer, you say the brisa was not. You can't even die from this brisa because it's not coming to tell you this. Then here the Gemara is a little bit more elaborate, 2 more lines, and it just says when you have such a kind of a brisa that the diuk of the Reisha contradicts the diuk of the Sefer, you say that one of them is dafka, another one is lav dafka, just that of the other half. E Reisha dafka nasif Sefer meshum Reisha, E Sefer dafka nasif meshum meshum Sefer. Either one of them is dafka, one of them is not. If you want to say the Reisha is dafka, it means that it is considered a kama. So then nasif Sefer meshum Reisha. That's the reason why it doesn't talk about gerushin in the Sefer, because it's keeping with the same cases. It's just saying the opposite cases. Here was Shama and he died the same day. Here he heard and he died the next day. It doesn't bring in the case of the gerushin because it doesn't have an opposite case, a corresponding case in the Reisha. So Nasif Sefer Mishum Reisha keeps to the same terminology as the Reisha, but it doesn't tell you the din of gerushin. He's Sefer Dafka, that the Sefer is not the fact that it doesn't say it's not considered a hakama. Why doesn't it say it in the Reisha? Nasif Reisha Mishum Sefer. It keeps the same wording. It wants to keep consistent the Reish and the Sefer, so it doesn't bring it in. But there's no right from this brisa because there's opposing piyukim from the Reish and the Sefer. It doesn't say it here, it doesn't say it there, so we still don't know.
The Gerushin, we don't know.
We still don't know. That's the question, and the more tries now another raya. Now we're getting back. Now we're going to get to the raya of our Mishnah. The case of the Mishnah was that she married other people. That was the case of yesterday's Mishnah, that he divorced her and she married somebody else on the same day.
Yeah, even 100 or something.
Even 100, right? So over there, the Gemara is partial to the Gemara that once the first husband would have affirmed it, then there's nothing to talk about. The second husband can't nullify it anymore, even if he. So that's the question. Why was it? That would be a very fair shariah. If the first husband divorced her and the second husband can still nullify, that means that the first husband's divorce is not considered a kama. Tashman nadra nadra via rusav and his garshav and his harsabov b'yom afilu b'meya avia bala achman v'fina the. That's the Mishnah on the page before. She made a neder while she was in Arusa. She got divorced. She became a rusa again to somebody else again and again and again. For argument's sake, even 100 times doesn't make a difference. So the father and the last husband could be made for the neder that she makes by the first husband. But if you say that the gerushin of the first husband is considered a kama, so it's too late. It must be that the Mishnah holds that gerushin is only considered silence, it's not considered affirmation. If you say it's considered a affirmation, can the later husband nullify a neder that the first husband had affirmed? Surely not. So you must say that it's only, you see from here that it's only considered a silence, it's not considered an affirmation. But the Gemara gets out of it. Maybe the case is this whole Mishnah we spoke about the day before, yesterday, maybe it's talking about that the first husband didn't hear about it. If he would have heard about it, the one who divorced her, or each husband that divorced her, and it goes on 100, any husband that divorced her didn't hear about it. If he would have heard about it, then he was quiet and he divorced her, that's considered a affirmation maybe. The case that the second husband could nullify the neder that she had under the first husband was only the case where the first husband didn't hear it. Then surely his divorcing is not considered a kama. But if he would have heard about it and divorced her, maybe it would be considered a affirmation. But the Gemara says, if so, why does the Mishnah say the case was that all this happened in the same day? It's not necessary. As long if you didn't hear about the neder, the only reason why you always work with the same day, because after the day is over, it's too late to be made fair. So the second husband wouldn't be able to be made fair, the 100th husband wouldn't be able to be made fair because it's already past the day. But if you say that he didn't hear about it, the first husband didn't hear about it, so then there's no reason to limit the case that he heard the same day. It must be that he did hear about it. The answer is Kishalo Shama always for Shama Av. The Boba Yom who the Matzi Mefer, Aval Mekanve Matzi Mefer. There's a father involved over here also. The whole case is talking about Oros. Oros means that there's a father and the Oros, both of them have to jointly nullify together. The reason why it says Boba Yom, the whole story happened in the same days, because the father did hear about it. The father heard about it. And what? And the Oros did not. So it could say such a case. Why did the Bryce have to talk about such a case that the father heard about it? I don't know either. Why did that Bryce have to talk about such a case? Of course, talking about a case that the father didn't hear about. He didn't hear about it. What?
Well, the voice has the rights to move.
I just said who said the cases that the father heard about it? Maybe he didn't hear about it yet until the third marriage, until the 100th marriage. Why did Bryce have to talk about a case where the father heard about it? But that's maybe a kasha. But what's about the Gemara says, don't bring a proof that the case is that the first husband heard about it. The fact that it says that this whole story happened Bobiyom, the reason why it says Bobiyom is because the father heard about it. That's why you have to have that everything was Bobiyom, or else the father's nullification wouldn't be a good nullification anymore. So otherwise you have to have a shutfus, and there's no shutf only if the father is going to be his nullification is going to be valid. You have to make a nullification on the same day. So the case that the Mishnah said before that the husband, the father, and the last husband are going to be able to jointly nullify is going to be within the same day. But it could be that if the first husband would have heard about it and divorced her, that would be considered an affirmation, a positive affirmation. And maybe the husbands afterwards can't nullify it anymore because the first husband affirmed it already. So there's no right here either. The one wanted to bring a right from our Mishnah that is considered a silence. It's not considered an affirmation, but the Gemara's matkil raya also could be the case was that the husband didn't hear about it. Now the Gemara reads the final raya to the question. Again, the question is if a divorce is considered an affirmation or not. And the nafkamina would be if he marries her again the same day. Tashma seems to be of a ferisha raisa. Nadra bobayom, nadra, whatever, bobayom, girsha, v'chzira bobayom. Ein yochal lahofer. Doesn't it say beferish? Mamash brisa word for word. She made a neder, he divorced her, he took her back the same day. He can't be made for anymore. Why not? Must be because it's considered an affirmation. Shmamina gerushin kamadam. So now it comes up, and here's where Avnison steps in. What?
That's not what I said, but
I think it is.
no.
This was Avnison's point, that when he divorces her and marries her again, the neder that she made in the first marriage, with the first time around, that's considered kodman as far as the second time around. So when he marries her again in the afternoon, he surely cannot be made for a neder that she had in the morning because that was a different marriage. Just code them the marriage. And the Nesua, once if she's in the Nesua, the incident till now we're talking about an Arusa. The Gemara didn't tell us before. They were shown him all right away because of this Gemara. They all jump in right away. When they explain the Gemara, they say that the whole question today, when we started, and he started this question today, scrolling back, he's talking about Arusa only. The whole question is only by an Arusa, where the din is by an Arusa. Arusa is, but the husband is made for Bekodman. We had a Gemara a couple of pages ago that Nesua is not made for Bekodman, and an Arusa is made for Bekodman. That the Orus is allowed to be made for the Dharma of his wife before the Erison. That was made before the Erison. The reason over there the Gemara said is because the father is also involved. Since someone is involved who has a connection to her prior to the Erison, so that's why you could be made for it, because there's somebody here that has authority over on the Kodman. But by a Nesua, when the husband's being made for by himself without the father, so how can he be made for a neder that was before he got jurisdiction? It has to be that the jurisdiction that he has to be made for the neder when the neder was made when he was around. By Oros, that the father's around, the father's joining him, and so the father was there around. He was the Kodman. He was the one who was there at the time that the neder was made. So that's why the Oros, together with the father, could be made for a Kodman. But a Nesua cannot. Once she's a Nesua and the father's out of the picture, so the husband himself cannot be made for something which was done before the Nesuin, because he wasn't around, and nobody was around. So when the Gemara's Kasha is the second time he married her the same day, is a Gerushin considered a Shtika or is it considered a Hakama? And the Nafkamina was if he divorced and married her the same day. How could if it be a Nesua, if his marriage was a full marriage, he made her a Nesua, then there's no question. The question, forget about Hakama, no Hakama. He can't. That's a different reason why he can't be made for it, because it's Kodman. As far as the second marriage, this neder was made before the marriage. He doesn't have jurisdiction to be made for a neder which was made before the marriage. So this question doesn't make sense.
No, why? Because it's completely in the reshut of the Baal
Because it was not made in this marriage. It was not made in this marriage.
That's what you were saying.
That's called Kodman. That's called Kodman. That's called before the marriage. So the fact that he divorced her and married her again, besides not the reason because of Hakama, not because he affirmed it, because this second marriage, he doesn't have jurisdiction to be able to be made for a neder which was made before the marriage.
Even if it's the same day.
Even if it's the same day. So and the whole question was only by an Arusa. So even though there's a Perish Brisa that says that he cannot, you can't have no right to our question, because the case of the Brisa maybe is talking about a Nesua. By a Nesua, then it's a partial reason why it can't be made for, because it's a Kodman. Our whole question was by an Arusa that it could be made for a Kodman, and the only reason why he shouldn't be able to be made for is because it's only reason in our question he should not be able to is because it's considered a Hakama. So that you have no right to. The Brisa maybe is not talking about that case. The Brisa that says Nadra Bobiyom Girsha, but it doesn't say what's talking about Arusa and Nesua. It doesn't say. So it's no right to our question. We can say it's talking about a Nesua, and the reason why any Yachal Hofer is not because it's considered a Hakama, the fact that he divorced her, but because it's considered a Kodman, and the Nesua he cannot be made for a Kodman before the marriage.
There's no right.
So there's no right. So the Gemara had 3 tries and no right. So we don't know.
So we don't know.
So we don't know. So here, just to point out the Ran he brings down.
How come all those proofs they wrote we didn't know we were talking about Erusin and not?
The first 2 proofs is talking about an Erusin. The third proof doesn't say. Here in the third Bryce, the first 2 Bryces are talking about Erusin. The Gemara had a different tichun, how to deflect the proof. But the third Bryce, it says beferish that he cannot any Yachal Hafer. But here it doesn't say Arusa. Here it could be in the Nesua. So also it's not a Ran. Lingan Allah says in the third wide line of the Ran, the Gemara doesn't answer the question. So is Gerushin considered a common? He says we don't know. But the Rajba says, The Maisinan Allah, Afshita Lem, remember the Shmuel, Damalael, Menan immediately the Orus, Achron Meifin, the Dorm, Shanil, the Rishon, the Alma, Kiblam Rabbe, the Chitan, the Mastis, and Bobby Yom, Mishum Shmias, Orus Nakatla, the Lam Shmias. Means the Gemara did bring a right from our Mishnah. A second ago, the Gemara brought a right from our Mishnah. The reason that the Gemara was Matras, maybe that Orus didn't hear about it. So, and the reason why it says Bobby Yom is because the father heard about it. But Shmuel, this is the Mishnah, the right from the Mishnah is no right. But Shmuel, a page ago, which I wasn't here that day, it did say this halacha even if you heard about it. Here, Manala and the Orus Achron Meifin the Domshin Niru the Orus Rishon. Niru the Orus Rishon means that the first one heard about it, and it was possible for him to be Mefer. So Shmuel said beferish that this halacha will be true. That if the husband heard about it and died, and what happened, and divorced her, and someone else married her, the second one could be Mefer. And even though the first husband heard about it and divorced her, still the second one could be Mefer. Mama question, which was really the right, the Gemara second right. Mama Mishnah. All the Gemara said is who said it's talking about that he heard about it. Maybe he didn't hear about it. You're right. And the Mishnah doesn't say he heard about it. It does says not Rav Arusa and his Gasha doesn't say he heard about it. But Shmuel does explain the Mishnah that he heard about it. Niru l'Orus Rishon, that it was Niru means that it was fit for the Orus Rishon to be able to be made. That means that he heard about it. That was yesterday's Gemara. The Gemara said the Mahani Mili Shano Niru l'Orus, even the Adam Shaniru l'Orus. So the Shmuel said it's talking about even Niru l'Orus, even if the first husband did hear about it. So from Shmuel we would have a raya that it's not considered a affirmation. If whoever enjoyed that is good. If you didn't enjoy it, we'll enjoy the next piece of Gemara.
I have a basic question. I'm confused. Let's say if the husband and the father don't hear about it the same day.
They did not hear about it the same day?
Yeah, so let's say the father heard of it one day, he didn't do anything, and then the Baal heard about it the second day. Does the father still
the father heard about it and the whole day did not say anything?
right? So that's not.
So it's already affirmed. So the husband alone is not going to be able to be made for.
So they can't, okay, so only the father heard about it and didn't refuted it, then the Baal could do it the second day.
Right. If each one on the day that they hear, they nullified it, so then it's nullified.
Okay.
Each one only has the day that he hears about it. If one of them had a day, heard about it, and he didn't nullify it, so it's affirmed. And then once one of them affirms it, the other one can nullify it.
The Orus and the Adam.
It doesn't have to be the same day. It can be different days. He didn't hear about it. He heard about it on Sunday. He heard about it on Tuesday. So here on Sunday, the father heard about it. He has to nullify it. And on Tuesday, he hears about it. He has to nullify it.
Oh, I see.
As long as each one nullified it on the day that they hear.
One day when the day from the day he hears.
Right. Next Mishnah, Amud Beis. Derech Talmidei Chachamim.
I'm sorry, Jake. Just to say he hears it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and 6 o'clock is Shkia. It doesn't matter.
So that's Machlokes Tanom. I think if it has 24 hours, it goes to the end of the day. We possibly goes to the end of the day. If he hears it right before Shkia, he only has till Shkia.
Really? So Mamash it's
Yeah, fun.
Yeah. It sounds, halachically according to the Lashon, it sounds it has to be.
There's a question, Machlokes, if it has, what does it mean, B'yom Shamo? Does it mean the 24-hour period, or does it mean till the night? As far as I remember, we pass until the night. Mishnah, there can be the Chachamim. Ad shelo haisa bita yosem etzlo omalo kol nedarim shenadar pesach beis yarein mufarim. The derech of the Chachamim, they don't want their daughters to have nedarim. So when they're marrying off the daughter, the day of chasna, before she becomes an nesua, he tells her, my daughter, all the nedarim that you have vowed in my house are hereby nullified. He nullifies before, because once she leaves, once she gets married, then she's out of his domain. She's an arusa, and now she's going to be a nesua. So he tells her, my daughter, all the nedarim that you have vowed are hereby nullified.
What is the gain? What is she?
That she's that's nullified. She made nedarim about not eating apples and whatever, not putting on perfume, all kinds of things.
Averis be on her.
Not Averis. Well, I have Averis. Can't do an Averis. Why is that
an oath that she can't keep?
I'm not sure what you mean to say.
And that she might have not been scrupulous with. So he's annulling them. He's giving her a break from any.
He's stopping her. He's nullifying all of her nedarim. Same way we've been doing the whole Masechta. That there's an neder and the husband. Okay, not the whole Masechta, only the parak. Last parak we talk about nullifying. The father and the husband have a right to nullify. the Parshas
I have
Masa.
a problem. It's not the same day. How can it be Michal? She made it neder 3 months ago.
This is the
There's,
father.
there's even a bit
Father.
more about the father, and it's only the same day, and it's not talking about the dome that he heard about yesterday. It's even talking. It seems even to talk about the dome that he didn't hear about. He's telling her, my
Where's
daughter,
quote
all the
for that
dome.
come from? Okay. Questions. Okay.
Oh, no, he can, he doesn't have to do it just that day, right?
Sure he does.
That's the problem.
Oh, so how can you do that?
How can you do that?
So what he's telling her, it seems the Pashut Pshat would be that he doesn't know about it. He's telling her he doesn't know. If he knows, he knows. If he knows any yesterday,
Pashut
all
Pshat
the
is that
done.
he doesn't
But
know, and that's what
before
he's
he tells
saying.
her, I might not know the dorm that you made. I hereby nullify them.
I see.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
וכן הבעל, עד שלא תיכנס לישוסה, אומר לו, כל אדם שנדעת, עד שלא תיכנס לישוסה, יבין בפורים. The husband also is Talmud Chacham. If, when he gets married, before he does Nesuin, she's coming in, the whole bridal,
Entourage.
Chnasa Skala, and before she steps into the house, he tells her, if you have any Nedam, they're hereby nullified. We're still Arusa, we're still Erusin.
He has the card.
Once she comes into the house, she's going to be on the Nesua. So he tells her, after I'm Nesua, I'm not able to be made for anymore. So I'm being made for a night now. Any Nedarim you have, in case it seems also I didn't hear about it. It seems you didn't hear about it. And he says, if you have any Nedarim, I hereby nullify
The
them.
second problem is that he has to communicate with the father.
He doesn't have to communicate.
Why? They have to have shutafut.
No, they,
Oh,
Just means that they both do it.
they both do it. But he has to do it. The father has to do it as well. Otherwise,
The father did it in the Resha.
Well, I thought they're two different cases.
If you only have,
I didn't know they were combined.
if you only have one, it's not going to be moved from. If
Exactly.
you only have, so you have to have both.
So in other words, he's saying that both father and.
So these Talmidei Chacham, the father and the son-in-law, they're Talmidei Chacham, and they want to make sure that this Arusa is not going to have the Nedarim. So the father and the husband, both of them nullified the Nedarim in the time that they could. The father before she leaves his rishus, and at the same time, the husband before she comes into his rishus. That's the time that both of them could be made for. It seems that they don't know about the Nedarim. In case she has Nedarim, they're nullifying it. And it seems in the Mishnah alone, it would seem that works. You could be nullifying it that they don't know about. If there's a neder that I don't know about, I'm being made for it.
Is this done? Nobody does it.
No, that's because no makes the dorm nowadays.
Oh, okay, so we don't worry
And
about
let's
it.
just say
They
that.
don't have it. Also, they're not 12 years old. They're getting married at already. They're independent already.
Yeah.
Independent girls.
So what would be if he finds out she made an edit before she's 12,
Illegal.
but he only finds out when she's
It's in
18?
jail. They give you
No,
10,000 shekel fine.
Once she's a bugger, once she father can't be made.
Oh, never before.
the last 5 words is the Gemara, is the
It's the Mishnah. Yeah. Hashem Sheni, right. Hashem Sheni. Constitution.
Husband and the father.
Whatever.
And I guess you're right. It's going to be also probably right. Yeah.
Once she goes in, meaning when she goes in.
When she goes into husband's domain, so then she's out of the father's
That would
domain,
be-
and also she's a Nesua, and he's not going to be able to be Mayfair after she's in the Nesua. He won't be able to be Mayfair Bekogan, I think.
Can I say that it's only would work for the Nedarim of that day, even though he's saying everything?
He-
might be,
what is the
he
number that-
might be only chal for those on the day.
What does that day mean? We don't care when she made it nether, we care about, whenever you say day, it means the day that he heard about it. It doesn't mean
And
the
he
day that she
never
made
heard
the
about it because it's.
And it seems he didn't hear about it.
Yeah.
That's pushed around the Mishnah. He didn't hear about it. He says, any Nedam that you have, I hereby nullify. And as far as we learn the Mishnah, that's such a thing. There's such a thing. It's not the day after. It's not too late because it's not the day after he heard about it.
Never heard it.
It could be she made the nether 5 months ago, but he never heard about it. So there's no problem. The clock didn't start. The clock here starts when he hears about it. Here, he didn't hear about it. And it seems to say that he could be made for another, he didn't hear about it. The Mishnah is place, that's how we would learn. But the Gemara brings up this question: is that possible to make made for a nether that he didn't hear about? Boy, he doesn't have a kashi. He just wants to know: is it true? Is it possible for a husband to be made for the nedarim that he did not hear? Also,
Oh, I see.
a father. It doesn't say here about a father, but it means father. Also, the Gemara right away bring it back from a father. A father or a husband that they're allowed to be made for, do they have to hear it in order to be made for? So I'm just going to introduce the pashtas. All the rights are going to be that he does not have the pashas in all the places is going to be does not have to hear. Like our Mishnah we just learned, we learned the pasha in the Mishnah that says he doesn't have to hear. If he has to hear, what's he being made about it? And she's getting married, whatever. And yeah, if I didn't hear about it, I didn't hear about it. I can't help. But the pasha in the Mishnah would be sound like he could nullify it. So both the father and the husband are nullified without hearing it, and she knows the nedarim that she made, and she now knows that it's nullified. That would be the pasha pshat. But the Gemara raises a question, maybe not. Kushama Isha Dafkahu or Lav Dafkahu. It says in the pasuk Kushama Isha that the husband hears it and he can nullify it. So maybe the pasuk that says he can nullify it is only if he hears it. If he doesn't hear about it, he can't nullify it.
I'm sorry, the pasuk is V'Shema Isha.
Yeah. The word he shows with a mapik, hey, her husband. Her husband hears about it, Shama Isha, Yom Shama Vech Mishloch, that
Her husband.
is all right. Her husband hears. So maybe that is, and then it says he could be made for it. He could nullify. Maybe only if he heard it. If he didn't hear it, he can't say, just in case if you have a neder, I'm being made for it. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it only could be nullified if you heard about it. Amar Rabba Tashma, our Mishnah. Our Mishnah talks about both the father and the husband nullifying without knowing about it. He didn't hear about it. Well, Shama, he didn't hear. Don't you have a right that he can nullify it without hearing? The Gemara.
That's just our Mishnah. Right?
That's our Mishnah with the 3 words of explaining the question. V'alo Shama. You see here that even though he didn't hear, he could nullify it. It's talking about the question.
That's
Yes.
part of the Bryson.
There's no Bryce. There's a Mishnah.
So what do you mean the 3 words?
V'alo Shama is the Gemara, and the Gemara now is saying based on the Mishnah.
Yeah,
That's the Gemara.
that's not our Mishnah.
That's the Gemara. The till here is the Mishnah. Then the Gemara ends off.
and
V'alo
our
Shama.
Mishnah that says what shows that. he did
That shows
hear.
that you see he didn't hear, and you see that he can nullify even without hearing. The Gemara says no, it's not a raya. When he is going to hear, he's going to be made for. It means that there's no such thing. He can't be made for without hearing. So he's only going to be made for after he hears about it, which doesn't make sense because he didn't hear about it. He didn't hear. If he so why is he saying this whole drasha to his daughter if he didn't hear about it? What's he saying that all the Nedarim are mufer? What do you mean? It's not mufer. You don't know about my Nedarim. The chiddush is that the Talmud Chacham he tries to what? Ladure. He's machazer. He tries to get it. What is he trying to get? He tries to get her. He tries to be mabatel her Nedarim, to make her
to
Nedarim.
go back.
How does he? Ladure means he's Ladure. He's mechazer. He's going after it. The derech of a Talmud Chacham is to go after the Nedarim of his daughter to be nullified. Then how did he accomplish that? So the Mefarshim explained that he's going to say, my daughter, all your Nedarim are by nullified. It's really a joke. He didn't nullify it. The daughter is not a Talmud Chacham. She didn't go to Beis Yaakov. Or in Beis Yaakov, they don't tell the girls this. And she thinks that her father was successfully made for a Nedarim. So she says, oh, so now I'm going to be able to eat apples. So the father says, it's hereby nullified. It's just a way of, it's a bait in order to bring out her Nedarim. She didn't tell the father the Nedarim. So the father says, hereby nullified, my dear. And she says, that means that from now on, the Gemara continues the same thing that you want. Tashma Seifa, a little bit different. But the Gemara that could have been the same thing as till now. The Seifa continues, the husband also is made for the Nedarim. And also before she comes into the door, he tells her all the Nedarim are more. If he didn't hear about it, etc. He tells her that all the Nedarim that you have are hereby nullified. He didn't hear about it. Don't you see that he could be made for without hearing? So he might have answered like Chaim David, that he tells her just in order to bring it out.
Right.
But the Gemara says a little different. Hachinami, there's a question in the gears over here. Some have the gears like you said. Hachinami, the easiest way is to do like you. Take out the nun aleph, take out these nun aleph. L'chishmana means when I hear. He tells her when I hear.
What
That's-
no?
If you look on the screen,
Shmana.
take out the nun aleph. L'chishmana means when I hear. That's a little difficult because she's coming into the house now. Once she comes in, it's too late. The Quran talks about there is such a gear, but just to keep it simple, the chishama means the same way we just said a second ago that he's going to tell her that all nullified. So she's going to say, "Oh, so my nether is off, and I made such a nedarim. I have 25 nedarim that I made." So he says, "Yes, they're all nullified." Now that I heard about it, and really, the first one is only a bait. In order, he tricked her. The husband, the father, they tricked the girl in order to get her to say what she spills the beans, and then they say that's nullified. But if she wouldn't know, you can't be. Maybe this is all a maybe. The Gemara is too them. The pashtus again is that you don't have to hear. That's the simple reading of the Mishnah is that they can be made without hearing. If you're going to say the other side that you have to hear, so we can be matcha that is talking about that. It's just a way to get them to talk, and then you're going to nullify. But you can't nullify without knowing about it.
I'm sorry. The chishama would mean what?
When he hears, he's going to be made.
And the na would mean
Take the chishma na means when I hear.
when he hears. In other words, he entices her to say
Her in the Nedarim.
Nedarim, and then he says.
Then he
no.
says, now it's hereby nullified. Before he said it's hereby nullified. So she said, oh, this and this and this. He says it is hereby nullified. Because before it was not nullified. They used to make Nedarim. Nowadays, we don't have Nedarim. People don't make Nedarim nowadays, but they used to. And it seems that maybe whatever reason they made Nedarim that were afflicting themselves and that, and the father and the husband don't want it. Tashma. Omer Ishto. Call it the submission later on. Come the Dam Shetadu, Yacha Abba Mimakum Ploni, Yabein Kayamin. Loma Klum. If husband says to his wife, all the vows you're going to make until I come back, he's going for a business trip and he thinks his wife's going to be making the Nedarim. So he tells her before he leaves, any neder you're going to make, I hereby affirm. He affirms them before she even made the neder. A husband affirms the Nedarim of his wife before she made the neder.
He didn't hear it.
He didn't hear it. No, it didn't even happen. She didn't even make the neder. Oh, that's nothing. Okay, it's not a business. It doesn't work. You can't affirm it. That's all part of the mission. Part of the mission that you cannot affirm a neder before it happened. How about the opposite? He said, all the Nedarim you're going to make until I come back are hereby nullified.
We ourselves did that on Yom Kippur, or Yom Kippur. We might at Nedarim, we didn't make it.
It's
How
night.
was Nedarim?
It's night.
We made it.
Make it's night. I mean,
You're not being made for neder. You're saying that I'm not making any.
All the Nedarim are made from now on Batul and
Yeah, that's not called a farah. A farah is what a husband does, what a father does. It's not. You're just saying I'm not making any. I'm most of them are that I'm not serious about it. You can't just say another somebody made himself no a farah. You just say before it happens, before the fact. He's saying that I'm not making any.
this is stronger.
This is hafara. This is hafara. The wife wants to make another. The husband has a right to nullify it, and he says he nullified it before it happened. Even can you do that? So here it says the Mishnah over there continues. The Chacham is saying you cannot. There's a machlokas about this. To be Mekayim, everybody holds you cannot affirm the neder before it happens. Machlokas if you can nullify the neder before it happens, and the Rabbanan says you can. The Rabbanan say you cannot. That'll be a different issue. The Rabbanan say you cannot for a technical reason because they say over there it goes together. You only could be made for neder that you could be Mekayim. If you can't be Mekayim, you can't be made for. The Rabbanan holds you cannot be Mekayim, but you could be made for. But the Gemara wants to say, fine, even if you're going to say that you can make the hafara before the neder, but if we're saying now you can't even make the hafara before you hear about it, you surely didn't hear about it. You didn't even make the neder yet. Bahalo shama. How can a Belazar say that you could be made for the neder before she made the neder? He didn't hear about it yet. Of course, she didn't make the neder yet, but that's included that he didn't hear about it. Yeah. And condition that he only after he hears about it, he didn't hear about it. And the Belazar said you couldn't make for neder even before it happened. The most match again. Hachanami dama lechi shamana. Here it does say Lachish Shemana, not Lachish Shema. Lachish Shemana, when I'm going to hear, it should be nullified. Now, the husband says now, I'm nullifying it, doesn't take effect yet. It'll take effect when I hear about it. When I come back and I'm going to find out, the Yom Shamo, whenever I hear about it, I'm going to hear.
3 months later.
So then when I hear about it, it's hereby nullified when I hear about it.
Okay.
For when I hear about it, then it's going to be then. You don't have to say that retroactively. You can say that when I'm going to hear about it, I'm hereby nullifying it. But when I hear about it,
so until he hears about it, she would talk to be usher in that. But only after.
woman made a neder, and the husband heard about it a week later. So during that week, it was a full neder, and she's chayav to keep it. And if she doesn't, she transgressed. Then the husband heard about it, he's able to be made for it. So here too,
You can even hear about it.
afraid to the day he said
if is it possible to work them afraid? I don't know. Is it possible?
It's not.
Maybe after he hears about it, then it can be maybe a little afraid.
maybe Mafreya was
When he hears about it.
maybe
And he could hear about it also.
It only took effect, but maybe it takes effect on my prayer. You want to say now, that it only takes effect after he hears about it.
But he could hear about it. It's not necessarily when he comes back. He
Could
could
be
hear
a month
about it
later.
distance.
Yeah, okay, if he hears it, okay.
right. That was
I told them to do actually open welcome plenty. The case was he told her any of the until I come back. That was the story. That he told her any of the until I come back are hereby nullified. That was what he told her.
He
That was
said when I come back. And he
so
meant
hereby
when I
nullified.
hear
So
about it.
whenever I hear about it, if I hear about it overseas, when I hear about it when I come back, whenever I hear about it, it's nullified.
Okay.
So I've listened to saying from when he hears about it, then it's nullified. Okay.
Because he can't be made for it.
If he didn't hear about it.
According to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, so what's he accomplishing now? If
I think
anyway,
the other
he's
way-
accomplishing
that's
that
why I
having to
think
say
that
it later.
the benefit of this is that he's saying it now, that even if Mafreya, because the likelihood is he's going to come back and he's going to hear anyway. So I'm saying that there should be maybe there's a koch in him saying it now that the Mafreya is chal.
yeah, I don't know. I could be. I'm sure we don't talk about it. I didn't see. Then what's the conscious? What do you gain? If anyway, it doesn't take effect until he hears about it. So why wait? It was mashma that is no gain. Not the first mashma like he said. But normally in hashta, So why does he have to do it now? When he's going to hear about it, let him be made for it. So that sounds like sounds like not. There's no purpose in doing it before, because anyway, it's not going to be on for until he hears about it. So when he hears about it, it'll be made for it. He's worried. Maybe I'm going to be busy when I hear about it. I'm not going to like have in my head to be made for it. So now he's made for it when I hear about it. So when he hears about it, then it gets activated, then it becomes more.
Or he might hear it a minute before Shkia and he has the chance to make it.
At that time that he's going to hear about it, he's going to be Torah.
He's going to be Torah, and
He's not going to be made for it. He's
it could
worried
be-
now when I come
if
back.
once he heard, he'll be Torah, and the day will pass. And he'll be Torah.
Yeah.
Chaim David said that he hears about it a second before Shkia. So he didn't even have
So
time to
he
say.
hedged his bet.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds good.
So the one brought a raya that L'chori could be made for before he hears about it, because here the case was L'chori that he made it even before the Neder happened, and the Gemara said no, it's not the case. On the tzad, everything's on the tzad. On the tzad, you don't have to hear about it, then the Gemara is happy. But on the tzad, you do have to hear about it. The case will be that he means to say, when I hear about it, then it should take effect. Another raya, Tashma, ha'omer lapitropis, kol nedarim she'noderes ishti mikan va'ad she'abo mokum ploni, hafer, ve'hefer la, yachal yimu farim, tamad lomar yishai kimenu v'yishai ferenu divi Rabbi Yoshia. Someone appoints a apotropis, what do they call that, a guardian, somebody to take care of his business. So he's leaving overseas, and he tells apotropis, I want to make sure that you should be made for my wife's nedarim. If you hear any neder that my wife makes until I come back, so I hereby appoint you an apotropis, a shliach, that you should be made for her nedarim. You're a shliach of mine. So that's what it talks about over here. Can you make a shliach to be made for? So the first Tana is Rabbi Yoshia. He says, no. Yachal Yumu, I think that it works. That Dafka, her husband could affirm it, her husband could nullify it, but he cannot make a shliach. So Rabbi Yoshia says no such thing as making a shliach to be made for. Yes.
Did you go through Ad Shavo Mimikam Plonin?
Hafer.
You shall.
You shall nullify. And the story was Veheferla, and he did as instructed.
And he did.
So you might think that it works. Yachal Yumu Farim. Talmud Lomar, no, that only the husband himself could affirm or nullify. Isha, you can manage Isha
without hearing it.
What?
Without hearing it?
Without
What is the Yechol Hayum?
You might think that it works, that you can make a
You might think
shliach,
that it does work.
that the shliach has the power to nullify
Mhm.
the husband's nedarim. So it says no, only the husband has the power. Only the husband is authorized. He cannot make a shliach. The Bryce is not talking about hearing, not hearing. It just talks about can you authorize somebody else?
Okay.
But Yoshi says no.
And the pasuk?
Because of the pasuk, Isha yikimenu v'Isha yiferenu. Her husband shall affirm it. Her husband shall nullify it.
Surely
It says
it's going to be the husband because he's
Meaning
connected
a
right
shliach
with
is
the
a
nefesh.
shliach.
It's not just an act of a matron. Maybe she really should do that in Neder, and he wouldn't agree.
He made it in the shliach. He said, "And I don't want any nedarim of my wife. I want to be made for all the nedarim."
But the fact that it says Isha means it can't be a shliach.
That's what Rabbi Yoshia says. The fact that it says Isha after her husband.
And Rabbi Yonatan.
What's the problem? We know that always is considered a shliach is
But a
considered
man
like
is like the
yourself.
person.
The agent is like the person
I'm
himself.
sorry, the agent is like the person.
So too, even though it says the husband, so the shliach is as good as the husband. You could make a shliach. Machlokis. We have here a Graisa maybe machlokis between Rabbi Yoshia and Rabbi Yonasan. If a husband can make a shliach to nullify his wife's nedarim. But the Gemara is asking,
And
but the
even
husband.
Rabbi Yoshua is the same, like he and Yoshua.
Rabbi Yoshia lo kamar ela mishum der sekasav hu yishai k'menu v'yishai ferenu. Avod kol yam v'shluch shloim kamoso v'halo shmi alei.
That's right. You didn't hear the oath.
What is that? So even Rabbi Yoshia.
Who says that there's a technical problem. He holds you can't make a shliach. That's technicality. The pasuk says you cannot make a shliach, but inherently he has no problem. In this case, this scenario of making a shliach to nullify the wife's nedarim, no problem. The problem only is you can't make a shliach. But there's a more basic problem that you didn't hear about it. You didn't. You the husband, didn't hear about it. Means the Rush explains that there's no such thing as making a shliach to hear the nedarim. That's not possible. To hear the nedarim, that he can make a shliach, even though the shliach can be
To
appointed
hear it.
to hear the
For the
nedarim.
shliach to hear it.
Yeah, that's not a, you can make a shliach to hear
You
it.
can't make a
Because
shliach to
if
hear it.
that surely the husband has to hear. If your old husband has to hear, v'shamai isha, you can't make a shliach to hear.
Can you send it?
Why
can you
not?
send it a
Why
WhatsApp?
not? Maybe it's
Enough?
questionable.
Can you
What?
send him a WhatsApp? It's enough.
I don't know. Maybe he has to hear it with his ears.
If he records the
I don't know, okay, that's a modern question for a modern rabbi.
No, I'm just
Not
trying
a
to,
modern,
I'm just trying to
a
understand
contemporary
to what degree
rabbi, I don't know, but let's say the olden
things have
days.
changed.
It says he shut, it seems it has to be
Mhm.
that he is
Yeah,
with his
yeah.
ear. So the husband didn't hear. So forget about the hafara. Could you make a shliach or not? That's technicality. But it seems that if not for that technicality, he would be able to be made for even though he didn't hear about it. So it must be a right that you don't have to hear. It's possible to be made for another without hearing it. If you could successfully appoint a shliach, he could be made for it as well. And even though he didn't hear about it, isn't that what it says? That's what it seems to say. If not for the problem of making a shliach, there'd be no problem in being for the shliach to be made for, even though the husband didn't hear about it.
That's only according to Rabbi Yochanan, but it's not according to Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia does not allow it to work.
There's a machlokes if you can make a shliach. That's machlokes. But the more I'm saying, besides, forget about that. Let's say there's no problem. There's a technical problem, no technical problem. But the Brisa doesn't have any issue about the fact that the husband didn't hear about it. You cannot make a shliach to hear. That's like the Rosh puts down as a premise. You cannot make a shliach to hear.
Okay.
So the husband didn't hear. So what's all subject talking about? If you have to be able to hear it before you make mefer, so he didn't hear. So how could you talk about the shliach being mefer? The husband didn't hear about it. Don't you see that you don't have to hear? You could be mefer without hearing. Everybody's happy with the proof.
Yeah, I mean.
Very happy.
Everybody agrees that the
Yeah,
shliach.
if you want to.
What's with the words here at the
I
end?
don't think it's gonna work.
Even Rabbi Yoshua, he didn't say except
His
Mishum.
whole problem is because the pasuk says openly it has to be the husband and it cannot make a shliach.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
but
what's
without
the
that
gzeira?
without that
Gzeira.
problem, what?
Because
Because means it's a pasuk. The pasuk says it's a Torah decree that says that you have to have the husband himself to nullify.
okay.
Can't not make a shliach. But otherwise, there wouldn't be a problem. Without that shluch shalom kamosa, you'd be able to make a shliach to be able to nullify the neder.
Except for this person.
Right. But for holo shmiale, he didn't hear the neder. The husband didn't hear the neder. How could he
Holo
make a
shmiale.
shliach to nullify the neder? He didn't. The husband didn't hear about it. And you're
So-
saying now that you have to hear. Isn't that a proof that you don't have to hear? The
Okay.
Gemara says on top of the page, Achanami, the Amale, the Chishmana, it should be Hofer. This word Mefer should be Hofer. This last word Hofer. Achanami, here also, he tells the Shliach, of course, your Hafara is not going to work unless I hear about it. But when I hear about it, then you should nullify it. On the
When I
time,
hear about it,
when I hear about it, then you should nullify it.
to the shliach.
He tells the shliach, Reb Shliach, I'm appointing you a shliach, that when I hear about it, you should nullify it.
I
So the
see.
question is,
And that's what he always meant.
that's what he said. That was the
Excuse me,
case.
what's the problem that he just makes it himself?
L'chisham alei le'falahu. If that's the whole issue, that you can't, if you cannot be made for it until he hears about it, so do it yourself. What I think shliach for. Maybe I'm going to be Torud. When I'm going to hear about it, I'm going to forget about it. So I appoint the shliach that when I hear about it, he should be made for. End of Gemara. End of Gemara.
The Hafer law was the end over there on the top. For me, it's the top wide line.
Top line.
That's the end of the Brisa. And he went and he did nullify it.
I'm not sure where you're up to.
On the Tashma.
You on the page before?
Yeah. First wide line. The Hafer law.
The verse
Here-
continues. This is the case so far. So far was the case. Yeah, you might think that it works. You
This is all the Brisa?
yeah, till after till the third wide line. Till the third wide line is the
Shluchos
Brisa.
shel Adam Kamosa.
Right. That's all the Brisa. That in the case where the husband made a shliach, Rabbi Yoshua says that you might think it works. No, it does not work because the pasuk says you shake when they shake for random. Rabbi Yonasan says, what's the problem? Kol takulu shlach shalom kamosa. End the Brisa. So the both of them say that there's no problem about not hearing it. The only other problem you can make a shliach. Everybody else you cannot. You don't have to hear it. Even if Yoshua holds no problem with not hearing it. Don't you see a ra? You don't have to hear it. So
I see.
the Gemara's
No, of
matcha
course
that
you
he,
have to hear.
the Gemara's matcha, no, it's not a proof. Achanami that he told her, he told him,
Told him, yeah.
when I hear about it, then you should be made for
Very
it.
good.
So the question, do it yourself. Maybe I'm going to be busy, I'm going to forget. So I made a shliach to be made for it when I hear about it. So that's the end of the Gemara. And the Gemara didn't bring a proof. The Pasha said all these cases is you don't have to hear. But Rami Bachama said maybe all these cases we could be matcha and you do have to hear. And the Gemara ends without proving it. And I have it now.
So where were you up to?
Go up to the third line, first word. Go up to boy Rami Bachama. He didn't do that. I guess we'll stop here. Okay, Yashikar, everybody,
And
thank
when,
you.
so when he hears, the guy